Assembly of the year. Welcome Business Council. I'm so excited that y'all are here. We're going to first begin with council roll call. Kendra?
Association for Nurses in Graduate School. Here. Communication Council. Here. Education Council. Here. Fine Arts Council. Here. Graduate Business Council. Graduate Engineering Council. Here. Graduate Public Affairs Council. Liberal Arts Council. Here. Masters in Professional Accounting Council. Natural Sciences Council. Here. Pharmacy Council. Here. Social Work Council. Here. Student Association for the School of Information. Student Bar Association. Student Engineering Council. Undergraduate Architecture Student Council. Undergraduate Business Council. Here. Undergraduate Geological Society. UT Nursing Student Association. Here. Undergraduate Studies Council. Here.
All right, we're now going to move on to organizational announcements. We've had a quick change up in the agenda. Francisco Tamayo and Gilbert Rivera, they are listed as organizational announcements. They're going to give a quick graduation rates task force update because they won't be able to make it towards the end of the meeting. So here are a few words from Francisco and Gilbert about their work on the graduation rates task force that's appointed by President Powers.
Very quickly, me and Francisco would like to thank everyone for allowing or giving us the time to speak here, especially. And just very quickly, me and Francisco have been serving on this committee since about this summer, midway through. And one of the things that we would really like, just at this really early stage, to disseminate to you, the student leaders here on campus, is to be thinking about this problem. Our graduation rate is 53%. One thing that I think the student body isn't aware of is that this is a problem. So one of the things that you can do as students is just talk about this issue. Honestly, getting people to know that 53% is low and that that our four-year graduation rates are 53% is, I believe, kind of the first step in solving or getting to 70%.
Yeah, also we wanted to extend an opportunity to y'all. Gilbert and I are also doing an ad hoc, a graduation rate committee, just to kind of gauge the opinion of the student body. We're meeting probably every week, so if you're interested, I'll be here all the whole meeting, I'll be here after the meeting if you would like to give your opinion or just come talk to us to where you see the problems here at the university. We'd be more than happy to talk to you, and we would love to have you on this committee. So, I mean, it's a very open door policy committee. If you can make one week, you're welcome. If you can't the next week, that's fine. We're just trying to get as many students on this committee just to kind of get that discussion going, at least within us. So, I'll be here after the meeting. Come talk to me if you have any questions, concerns, or, yeah.
On another note as well, we really would like you to encourage your councils to become a part of this. So all of you guys in UBC back there, if y'all are interested in this issue, feel free to join that as well. So you can shoot an email to Francisco, his email's on the agenda. Moving on, is there a representative from Teach for America here? Yes.
Hi everyone. I'm going to pass around some contact cards. It's just got some information about your name and email and different things like that. If you could just fill them out so we know who all we're reaching, we'd really appreciate it. And I'll hang around at the end to collect it. So my name is Jamie, and I'm a second year here at UT studying psychology, and I'm also a campus representative for Teach for America. And so I'm just here to talk to you a little bit today about the mission of Teach for America. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with it? Good, that's what I like to see. Okay. So Teach for America is a national nonprofit organization that's dedicated to closing the academic achievement gap, as many of you are probably aware. And I just want to paint a picture of the academic achievement gap for you, right here in Austin. So I want you to consider Westlake High School and Reagan High School, two schools that we have here in Austin. A typical student at Westlake High School can expect to spend their 4 years taking a wealth of AP courses. They probably have a computer and internet access at home. And at the end of their 4 years, they can expect to be accepted at almost every university they apply to and have a very successful high school career. For a student at Reagan High School, the picture's a little bit different. Reagan High School is in East Austin, and a typical student there can expect to spend their 4 years taking remedial courses, working to get their scores up to state standards, They probably don't have a computer at home or internet access, and at the end of 4 years, it's expected that less than half of them will graduate. So that's a very real problem here in Austin, and all that separates these two schools is 20 minutes and an interstate. That's it. It's not that big of a difference. It's not like they're on complete opposite sides of the state. They're right here in Austin, separated by 20 minutes and an interstate. And the Texas Tribune published a study about all of the high schools here in Texas, and Westlake took a top 30 spot. So they're ranked substantially high since there are so many schools in Texas. Westlake was second to last, or I'm sorry, Reagan was second to last. So that's a very big discrepancy right here. And unfortunately, problems like these aren't just unique to Austin. They do apply nationwide. All across the country, students who are in poor minority school districts who are entering into the 4th grade can expect to already be 2 to 3 grade levels behind their higher income peers. So this is a substantial problem, and that's what Teach for America works to address. So cut and dry, what it is an organization dedicated to trying to close the academic achievement gap. It's a 2-year commitment to teach in one of 43 lower income school districts around the country. It is a salaried job, so you do receive full salary and health benefits and everything from the school district in which you teach. You can also put your loans into forbearance, so you don't have to worry about accruing any more debt during that time. And additionally, we do have partnerships with graduate schools and employers, so that after you can get acceptance into a specific career or into a specific school and defer your start date for that, for the 2-year commitment that you're doing Teach for America. Companies like Google even, who we have that partnership with, they'll give you a mentor during that time to keep you connected to the company as well. And that goes into the bigger part of what the picture of Teach for America is, because we know that we can affect good change in the classroom, but that the bigger change will come from the outside, from the systems outside that kind of don't tilt the odds in favor of these kids in these school districts. Because the reality is that Texas really does need your help. In a study of all of the states plus Washington, D.C., Texas is ranked last in the number of adults that have high school diplomas. We're 51st. We have the lowest number of adults, percentage-wise. I know population-wise it would be a no-brainer, but percentage-wise we have the lowest number of adults in our state with a high school diploma. And so what I really want to challenge y'all to do, because y'all are such prominent leaders on campus, is y'all are the academic voice for UT. And I really want you to go out, consider doing Teach for America, and become the academic voice for our country and for these students who don't have the same kind of opportunities that other students have. And so I just want you to consider that. And that's a little bit about Teach for America, but we do have so much more information. We've got the website, www.teachforamerica.org. You can Google it, it'd be pretty easy to find. I'm also going to hang around till the end, so if you want to talk to me at all about it, I can definitely be available to answer any questions or anything. But if you are a graduating senior, our next upcoming deadline for application is actually tomorrow. So if you're really speedy, you can get it done. If not, there are multiple other deadlines throughout the fall in order to get your application in if that's something you're interested in. Thank you.
Alex will be speaking on behalf of students for the Margaret C. Berry student activities.
Hey guys, I'm Alex. I'm a second year at large in Sandy. I'm here to talk about the Margaret C. Berry student activity center campaign. What we're trying to get is this building named after Margaret C. Berry. She's a 96-year-old alumni and dedicated over 80 years of her life to this university. She served for 20 years as Dean of Women. She's written 8 books about the history of the university. She started the 24-hour health service center as well as the child care center on campus. Finally, there exists a disparity between men and women buildings. There are currently 72 named after men and a mere 8 named after women, and one of which is planned to be demolished. This would just help honor a very distinguished alumni. She is a recipient of the Texas Honor Distinguished Alumni, the highest honor that an alumni can receive. And I have some petitions that I'd love to pass around. If you haven't signed up, if you haven't been hounded by us on West Mall, feel free. We're just asking for name, email, and if you don't want to give email, we're not going to stand on you. But anyway, thanks so much. I hope y'all support Margaret C. Berry's Student Center.
Alex took my agenda, so we may have been here all night and me trying to remember what's next. Is there someone from Graduation here? Yes.
Levi Andrade, and I started an organization and website called Gradonation. And the organization is basically, we created it, my partner Abby and I created it to help out college students who are taking out a lot of student loans to pay for college. There's a lot of y'all who may or may not be taking out student loans, but for those of you who are, we'd like to reach out to y'all and see if we can help you out with, through donations, with family, friends, and ultimately we're trying to get philanthropists to go out, donors, random donors to go help you all out and help pay for college. Tuition, books, living expenses keep on going up, and because of all this, increases in tuition and books, we'd like to reach out and help, the students out there who are, having to pay with only student loans for college. I have flyers here for y'all if y'all like to look into it a lot more. The website is called gradonation.com, so if y'all like to check it out, I'll be in the back. Thanks, guys.
And then we have one last organizational announcement. Barbara, I'll pass on really quickly.
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry I didn't put this on the agenda, but I wanted to kind of put this out there. Jeff, myself, Gilbert, and a few people in the audience I see today are part of an organization called Texas Blazers. And I just wanted to inform all the men in the audience that this is an organization that cares really about three things: leadership, service, and brotherhood. So if you're interested, I think our deadline is September 26th. Feel free to come after meeting, talk to me, Jeff, or Gilbert about it. Didn't want to talk too much, but essentially we're the hosts of UT Campus and the brother organization of Orange Jackets. If you've heard of them, they do a lot of great stuff, a lot of really involved people, and people in Senate, student government, all across Longhorn sponsored organizations. So if you're interested, definitely come after meeting and talk to me. Thanks.
Are there any organization announcements? All right, we're going to move on to the special report. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Vice Provost Gretchen Ritter. She'll be giving a brief presentation on the course transformation project here, and then we'll give a few details about how students can get involved in that, which is something that we will later follow up on during President's, Senate Reps, and FD meetings. So, Dr. Ritter.
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you, Emily. I got to say, I'm really impressed to see this many people here tonight. I thought everybody would be home picking out their ACL schedule, but I guess we'll do that later. So how many of you have heard of the course transformation program? Great. So this is a program that is less than a year old. It's a program that started in the Provost's office, and the idea behind the program is to try and redesign our core lower division gateway classes. So what kind of classes are those? Those are the classes that have thousands of students going through them a year. They're the classes that you have to take and succeed in to advance in a number of majors and disciplines on campus. So there are programs there are courses like calculus, biology, chemistry, psychology, government, English 316K, etc. Oftentimes, these are courses that students struggle with that first year. They're courses where students who come here who are on path to be pre-meds discover that the academic preparation that they got in high school wasn't quite as strong as they thought it would be, and that calculus class is a much bigger challenge than they expected. And for promising students who've got the motivation and are willing to put in what it takes to succeed in these classes, we want to help and think about how can we provide better support structures so they can succeed. So what does that look like? It means rethinking the classes, thinking first about what it is that you really want students to achieve by the end of the class, helping to tie all of the assessments, all of the learning activities to that, giving students materials online, outside of class, so they can practice and master key concepts helping to give instructors a better understanding of whether or not their students have mastered a concept and are ready to move on to the next one. A lot of these classes, because they're so big, are often classes where they tend to be in kind of traditional lecture format. You sit, you listen, you take notes, and then hopefully you still remember it by the end of the week. Hopefully you remember it all by the test. Well, if we can restructure that so you can get more feedback in the class, so you can be more engaged in those learning activities, so you can go home later, maybe watch the lecture again on video, so you can practice what you learned in class and see whether or not you got it right. And then your professor gets information that says, oh, a third of my class still doesn't get it. Then they can back up the next day and go over it again. So why should we do this? We should do it as part of our commitment to education overall and the educational success of our students. We should do it because more and more of our students are digital natives. We should do it because when we think about conversations about educational productivity, such as those that are going on in the papers or down at the Board of Regents, our answer to what is educational productivity is it's the success of our students. The more students who succeed in calculus the first time around, the fewer students have to take it twice. The more students who succeed as freshmen, the fewer students we lose in that freshman year. That, to us, is academic productivity. And this creates other opportunities as well. It creates opportunities for us to share some of the resources that we develop with other institutions. Institutions like community colleges, where students may be transferring to us. If they have a clearer understanding of what it means to succeed in our freshman courses, then they may be able to prepare themselves to succeed in the next level of course when they come here. We can share it with high schools so that they can better align their junior and senior curriculum to our freshman classes. So that's the idea behind it. A couple of other things that we think are going to be helped by this. We think it's going to improve four-year graduation rates, both by increasing retention and by reducing the time it takes to get through. We also think that it may help to reduce costs for you. The more we develop online learning materials and modules, the less likely it is that you'll be having to buy textbooks for these classes. So that's the program, and I would love to get your feedback and your questions about it. What do you think?
Any questions, comments? Yes.
So if you're just transforming kind of the entry-level classes, do you think it'll affect how well students adjust when they take the harder upper-level classes where it's a chapter a day?
Right, so there's two ways in which we hope that it'll make a big difference in those upper-level classes. If you think about, for instance, the curriculum in a lot of the science disciplines, it's very scaffolded, right? You've got to really get what's going on in calculus before you can move on to differential equations, etc. You got to get the basic level in chemistry and biology before you move on to the next. So in that sense, really doing well and having a deep understanding that you'll keep with you in those freshman classes should help you later on. And in fact, one of the ways in which we're going to assess the success of this program is whether or not it continues to impact student success beyond that class. The other way it helps is there are skills that you develop that apply to all of your classes. So you, many of you I'm sure remember that the transition from high school to college often involves learning how to learn in a different way. That you move from more rote, more memorization, to synthesis, to analysis, to critical thinking, to critical reading. So those problem-solving skills, so those kind of deeper intellectual skills are the kinds of skills that if we can help you develop in freshman year, that should help you not just in all of your classes, but it's going to help you once you get out into the workforce as well. Yes.
You say a lot of materials can be online. What is that keep people from not going?
So the way that we're trying to think about this is that it's not just about online, it's also about what's in class. So the idea is to try and change part of what happens in class by what you do online. So that instead of just being lectured at, you might review a mini lecture before you even get to class. And in class, you may be working in a group to solve a problem. Okay? We're also trying to make the in-class experience more engaged through classroom response systems of different kinds and things like that. And in the end, what we find is there will be some students who, of course, whether you have these kinds of materials or not, aren't going to feel obligated to go to class. But we think if students feel like class is a place in which they're really engaged and really learning, they're more likely to show up.
Any other questions for Vice Provost Ritter? Any thoughts?
Last thing I'll say is, you know, this is an experiment. We're trying this, we're going to be checking it as we go along. I'm sure there are going to be some things we do right and some things we do wrong. It's going to be really important to us to hear from you and to hear from your fellow students your reaction to the new approaches we're taking. So please talk to people about this and pass along to me, you know, and be unvarnished, whether it's good or bad. We need this information in order to put it on the right track. Let us know what you're hearing. So thank you.
We're now going to move on to regular guests. Is Manny Gonzalez from Graduate Student Assembly? Yes, there he is. Manny.
Andy told me that I'm the highlight of the Senate meetings. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but no pressure now in terms of my update. Only a couple left. A little better. All right, well, we just had our first meeting last week, and so our second meeting of the semester will be this coming week. In terms of what we've done in between, the big items that we've worked on, well, I guess Natalie and I will talk about this a little bit, but our big thing that we did this past weekend with Natalie and I have been selected to serve on the UT System Student Advisory Council, and part of that council, I've been elected as vice chair for the Graduate and Health Affairs subcommittee, and I'm also on the Campus Life Committee. In the Graduate and Health Affairs Committee, we're going to be addressing graduate stipend levels across the system and making sure that the minimum levels reach at least the cost of living at our institution cities. We're also reviewing the quality of health services at all of our institutions. Apparently, at some of our institutions, health providers aren't necessarily up to high standards. In Campus Life, we're reviewing, trying to provide more services for veterans, and then we're also looking into sustainability policies across the system. UT has great sustainability policies in place. It seems as though UT Can-Am and some of these other institutions that don't have the same access to resources are looking to do more in terms of sustainability. The other big items we've been working on, we were in the middle of about to create an ad hoc committee to review our internal documents, our bylaws and our constitution. We're hoping to do a complete revamp in terms of changing what our assembly is going to look like so we can be a little bit more effective and efficient in how we represent graduate students across the board. And then we're also heavily involved in conversations on a brush fire relief concert benefit along with Senate and SG. And so we'll keep you posted with all of that. I feel like I'm omitting something, but I guess if it was that important. Oh, GSA is about to have its first happy hour of the year next week. And so if you're of age and you want to drink with a bunch of graduate students, please feel free to come. It's going to be at Local Pub at 5 o'clock. We're really trying to do a better job of connecting graduate students with other graduate students and with other people in general outside of our siloed labs and cubicles. And so if you want to hang out with some really old later TAs, we'll be at Local Pub at 5 o'clock next week on Friday. So it's always a pleasure, and hopefully I lived up to Hank's standards.
Thank you, Manny, and thanks for providing providing us with many social opportunities the next week. Now we will have an update from the Student Government President, Natalie Butler.
Hey y'all, so sorry I wasn't able to come to your last Senate meeting. Hopefully I'll be able to come from here on out. If those of you I haven't met, my name is Natalie Butler. I am the Student Government President. I will try and keep it brief, but we have a few things to talk about. We're really excited about a few things we're working on. To touch on what Mandy said, the UT System Student Advisory Council, I now was elected this past weekend the chair of the Legislative and Financial Affairs Committee, which means I'll be working on that throughout the next year, and then I'll make a report to the Board of Regents in May on some of the findings from that committee. A few things we're going to be focusing on in particular are the tuition setting process at a lot of the different institutions. Based on our initial roundtable conversation, it sort of seems like we at UT Austin have one of the most student-involved models of tuition setting. So we really want to look at what the other system schools are doing and recommend, hopefully, that more students get involved in that process. We'll also be looking at tuition exemptions and waivers for international and out-of-state students. That's sort of a legislative issue. It's politically unpopular, but very important to the universities to be able to recruit international and out-of-state students. So that's something we're going to examine. And then, of course, sort of monitoring the higher education debate going on. I'll get to that a little bit more in a second with the Joint Oversight Committee on higher education. But a few other quick things. The University Budget Council, I'm excited to start sitting on that committee. The first meeting that I'll be a part of during my term on the UBC is, not that UBC, but the University Budget Council is on Monday. We sort of had our new briefing today, the new faculty member. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to probably be bothering a lot of you and your councils and your CT backs to come talk about budget issues, share some of the information that I'll have on UBC so that I can bring information from y'all's colleges back to the Budget Council. So just to let you know, I'm going to warn you, I might be pestering you a few months down the road. I hope you don't mind. A few other things student government's working on. We're really trying to improve a lot of the processes in the Dean of Students office. Things like room reservations, funding applications, we really think a lot of it's inefficient and outdated. So we're really examining those processes, sort of the technology behind a lot of them and the institutional rules to hopefully make those things a lot easier on student orgs. So that's something we're excited about. We've made a lot of progress. If you have any more questions about exactly what we're working on, let me know. We also are probably going to set up a roundtable sometime soon with college councils to talk about how y'all interact with a lot of institutional rules surrounding student organizations. So I would encourage y'all to come once we get that set up. We'll let you know. Another big thing, the Longhorn Run, start training now. 10K and a 2-mile fun run on April 14th. That's Saturday, April 14th, 2012. We're going to start training to run those 6 miles. It should be super fun. I am excited about that. It's going to be bigger and better than ever before, so we're really pumped. Manny touched on our wildfire response plan. We're really excited to be working with a lot of different organizations. That plan might have changed a little bit today. Those of you that have been involved in that, I'll let you know exactly what we're up to, but we are going to do a big fundraising effort among a lot of student orgs on campus to respond. Another one thing going through student government right now, we're having a conversation about supporting single-member districts for the Austin City Council. Right now, all of the city council members are elected at large, which from a student perspective means that there really isn't a council member that the UT community can turn to that represents a lot of the neighborhoods that house a lot of students. So right now, you sort of have to find a council member that maybe is student-friendly, whereas we sort of think, and a lot of people in Austin agree, that it would be better if you had someone that you are actually a constituent of, you can go talk to about city issues. So we're probably going to come out and support a single-member district, something we've been working on for quite a while. If you have any more questions about that, let me know. And one last thing, I touched on this a second ago, there is a committee meeting for the Joint Oversight Committee between the Texas House and Senate on higher education, governance, excellence, and transparency. It'll be this next Wednesday, the 21st. I'll be down there pretty much all day. I have a test that afternoon, so I'm going to come back to take that test. I plan on testifying in the public comments section of the day to sort of talk about the debate we're having about higher education. If any of you are interested, I'm sure Carissa will share a lot of that information. She and I have been talking about it. The more students we can have in there, the better, even if you don't want to say anything, to come listen to the conversation. It should be really interesting. And if you want more information, I'm the only student on the executive committee for the Texas Coalition for Excellence in Higher Education. We've been working really hard to prep for that day as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. Sorry, that was kind of a long report. I wasn't able to come to your last meeting. Does anyone have any questions before I head? Okay, awesome. Happy meeting. Senate is wonderful. I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Natalie. We're now going to move on to unfinished business. Would the authors of SB 1102 like to give any updates? They have about a 5-minute presentation.
Hi guys, so I won't take up as much time as I did when I presented the first time. I just want to report that I made some changes to this since I last seen you guys. On Enacted 920, I changed it to make the wording a little more clear that we sponsor a few registered student organizations instead of just making it seem like we sponsor every registered organization and journal. That's just a language clarification. And then enacted line 146. That was something I added. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. We added to Article 4, which talks about our standing committees in Senate in our Constitution. Just to institutionalize TDAC as part of the Senate. It's an issue that was created by us, and to explain how it works and hopefully how it will continue to work as organizations change, as administrations change throughout Senate. So those are the two big changes I have made since our last GA.
We will now open the floor to 20 minutes of discussion and debate. Does anyone have any last-minute questions for the author before we All right, the discussion and debate is now open. Are there any comments on the Constitution, thoughts from your councils? I know this is a boring resolution, but anything at all? Any feedback that you received? Concerns, kudos for Allie? I don't know. All right, so is there a motion on the floor to end discussion and debate? Is there a second? All those in favor of ending discussion and debate, please say aye. Aye. The question is on SB 1102. All those in favor of approving SB 1102, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? SB 1102 unanimously passes. We are now moving on to SB 1103. Would the author wish to make any last minute?
Not much has changed. You can still see the extensive footnotes to the whereas statements if you're interested in looking them up online. Just kidding, there's no footnotes. The enactments are on the second page. Just to quickly go over them. One is to set the budget deadline for councils to actually submit their budgets. To me, the financial director, that's October 1st. I ran through this entire piece of legislation, including all the enactments, with the Senate Financial Committee, by the way, and they've now become the sponsors of the legislation. So if you trust your financial directors, you can trust them with this. Second is to amend to primarily spend funds for events that are on campus. I know that we do fund a few things on campus, so that's just to be in line with our current practices. The third enacted is to ensure that council spend all their funds by the last day of the spring semester. Anything that they don't spend by that time will transfer over to their summer budget and whenever the summer deadlines are. Fourth enacted is to allocate council funds on a semester-by-semester basis. And again, to clarify, this means that if you want to spend all your funds in one semester, you can still do that. You just have to draw out a plan for it. If you read the wording, it will show that. And the final one is to establish a limit for organization appropriations of $500 instead of a $200 limit for t-shirts. Any questions?
We will now open the floor to discussion and debate. Just to clarify, if you do discuss and debate this, that doesn't mean you don't love your financial director. So does anyone have any comments? Discussion and debate, concerns from councils? Anything at all? All right, is there a motion to end discussion and debate? Is there a second? All those in favor of ending discussion and debate, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, the question is on the passage of SB 1103. Are you ready for the question? All right, all those in favor of approving SB 1103, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? SB 1103 unanimously passes. So now we're going to move on to new business with the authors of SR 1102 in support of mandatory electronic course instructor surveys. Please come forward for the 2-minute presentation.
Hi guys, so the point of this legislation is to address what we see as a problem right now, which is that currently there are only two main ways for students to officially express feedback to professor performance. And they are paper CIS or voluntary electronic course instructor survey. CIS course instructor survey. So the purpose of this legislation is to standardize the process by which student feedback on professor performance is collected by mandating electronic CIS forms. We want electronic CIS forms because voluntary ECIS, which is the current process, aren't representative of student opinion, and paper ECIS currently have several privacy issues associated with them. So we'll go straight into the whereas statements.
Alright, so looking at lines 6 through 17, referencing Commission of 125 board again, the importance of holding faculty accountable for the outcome in terms of research and the actual teaching. So the course instructor surveys right now are the primary mechanism for students to actually respond with regards to delivery and teaching the actual design of the class. So skipping down to lines 19 through 31 then, the data collected through the CIS does a variety of things. The first, it allows students valuable information when they're actually selecting courses. Secondly, it's central to the actual goals of the course transformation program. Third, it factors in decisions about teaching awards and tenures, things that are going to affect professors. Moving on to lines 33 through 53, there are a few current problems that do exist with the CIS system. The first is that the CIS, if it has responses that are limited to 5 or fewer, will not be counted. Secondly, electronic course instructor surveys, as Laura just mentioned, are currently voluntary, so they're not likely to be representative of what all the students are actually feeling. Third, the handwritten section of paper or CIS may lead students to actually censor themselves if they feel that professors are actually going to know their handwriting, so it might prevent them from being completely honest. Lastly, lines 55 through 63 of the whereas. So student comments that are legally protected would be redacted from typed ECIS comments before they were published, and this would be, again, with the goal in mind to protect student privacy. So we're going to lastly move on to the result.
Okay, I'd like to point out the first result statement in line 65. As the title suggests, we are supporting that the university mandates students to complete electronic course instructor surveys at the end of each semester. And in order to make filling out these surveys mandatory, we're suggesting that the university withhold student grades for the most recently completed semester until the time at which they have completed those surveys. That way, that all professors in all classes are receive feedback from students and can improve or adjust their course design or teaching style over the course of the semester. In Result 72, we are recommending that the university continue to use paper course instructor surveys until the time at which they can offer mandatory surveys. And the reason, as we discussed earlier, is that paper surveys are more representative of student opinion, and we want to make sure that these comments, because they're used as a factor in tenure decisions and nominating professors for teaching awards, we want to make sure that those comments are representative. In terms of follow-up for this legislation, will be, if this legislation is passed, we'll be recommending this policy in the Educational Policy Committee of Faculty Council, on which I sit, and in, what's your committee called?
Education and Technology Committee.
Yeah, it's another committee of Faculty Council. So.
That is the presentation. We will now have 10 minutes of question and answer. Does anybody have any questions?
On line 16, whereas, when you're talking about the course instructor surveys, are the primary mechanism for student feedback, are you talking about the ones that are solely collected by the University of Texas, or there are some other outlets where, like MyEDU, stuff like that? Are you talking about those two, or is this just referring to the ones within the team?
We're talking exclusively about the ones that are offered by users, so this isn't including MyEDU or any other third-party feedback source.
Okay. And are you saying that like this is the primary mechanism that students use to review their instructors, or just this is the outlet that they can use, this is the only outlet that they can voice their opinion within UT?
Right, we mean that this is the only outlet they can voice their opinion and feedback to instructors about how instructors can improve.
Okay.
If a student chooses not to do the course instructor survey, or grades are withheld, what does that mean for the student? Like, how severe a penalty is that? Can you clarify what that means?
We hadn't thought of if a student just refused to fill out a survey. The idea was that when they went to collect or look at their grades at the end of the semester, if they had not completed their electronic course instructor surveys, they would bounce them back to a page where they would take that survey then. Are you saying a student was just opposed to the idea of taking an electronic course instructor survey?
Well, if it's a penalty, how severe a penalty is it that it's withholding grades, I guess?
They just wouldn't be able to see their grades.
So they can't see the grades?
They can't see the grades. The grades would not they'd still exist here. We're not taking away their grades. They just wouldn't be able to access them through the registrar's website.
The idea is that that would be an incentive system for students to complete the survey.
In terms of addressing that same issue, what happens is, have you guys thought about maybe doing it in terms of the scheduling and how they won't be able to schedule for the next semester if they do this, and then for the last semester doing the grades so that they can, if they're senior graduating, just have their grades held that way?
Right. We discussed the idea of using registration bars as the mechanism instead. The only problem with that is you will have registered for the next semester before you take the course instructor survey, so it would have to be for the second semester following, and one that would be harder for students to track that information since it's the time horizon is so long, and second, the incentive isn't as, or the incentive doesn't work as well if the time frame is that out in the future.
If you don't mind me saying, I don't think the intent is to ruin the student's path to graduation, but more or less just to kind of hold the grades over their head as, you know, to sit to the survey.
I guess just from a feasibility standpoint, have we talked to the registrar about their integration with them knowing who's filled out the surveys, and then they're gonna, you know, pull your grades, and you can have 4 grades, but your pound sign for only the one class or all your grades? I just seem like it would maybe be overly cumbersome for them when they're already very stressed very thin to kind of add this in.
That's not something that we have talked directly to the registrar's office about. We would be doing that in follow-up. We considered several different options for mandating the ECIS, and this was the easiest we came up with. Ultimately, I think we're putting the importance of gathering results over a stress on the registrar.
The other thing, the registrar's office is currently in the process of reviewing their information systems and improving how they process electronic information. So because they're in the middle of this redesign process, that presents an opportunity for us to make changes now while they're reviewing.
And if you don't mind me jumping in, I was in the initial meeting where this was discussed, and they did actually bring this up. Center for Teaching and Learning brought it up to the registrar, and they were kind of in coordination on this effort to move to ECIS, and they didn't have any problem with it. It was more the faculty that did. So that's kind of what's holding it up as far as I know, but I am following up with the registrar tomorrow just to make sure that I'm clear on that, because things change.
So I'm just a bit confused, because currently with the ECIS system there's an expiration date for all the surveys, so if within that time frame you didn't perform the survey, would you then be blocked from doing that grade? Theoretically you would be blocked from doing that for the entire tenure of your academic career. So how do you plan on responding to that? Because the whole idea of the surveys, you have to take within a time frame, otherwise you would result from not being able to accurately respond to the questions because you're not exposed to your coursework as a professor.
Normally the time frame for responding to that survey and for getting grades would coincide almost exactly at the end of the semester. You have to usually fill out course instructor surveys on the last day of class and get grades a couple days later. So by extending the window to when grades are due, that would be the deadline. And then at that point, when you access your grades, if you haven't done it yet, the registrar would likely, depending on how they implement this, will likely redirect you to the page to fill out the course instructor survey before you would be allowed to get your grades.
But then you kind of be subject to compulsory bias because you're being forced to make a survey to your grade, and then have bias results in the survey.
That was a lot of faculties.
Yeah, because that would be my worry, is that I'm stopping my professor because I'm having to take this survey, so I'm going to get them the worst review possible. So that.
The other point is though, you're in some ways compelled to take it during class too. So I don't know that bias would be substantially different than it currently is.
Specify in the legislation, is it only electronic grades hold, or is this also they can't go print an unofficial transcript? What all does this extend to?
I think that would really be up to the registrar's office, but I think our feeling is we were thinking of this as more as online access. The idea isn't to prevent students from ever seeing their grades. The idea is to incentivize them to take the survey.
I think also, if you don't mind, sorry if I'm jumping in too much, you guys, I can have a two-part answer to that. One is that it would make the entire university move to electronic course instructor surveys, so paper wouldn't be available anymore at all for anyone to take. And then the second part to your answer is that it would only withhold their grades.
And one thing we haven't mentioned yet is doing the electronic course instructor surveys is substantially less expensive for the university.
I was wondering, just by making it electronic, how does it make it more private? Would you have to use your EID to log in? Would it be able to be traced back to you in that sense?
So yes, you would have to use your EID to log in. Currently, the privacy issue with paper CIS is that professors can access the student comments if they're handwritten. So for classes that are smaller or where you have handwritten assignments, it's an issue wherein you might feel that your professor can identify you and understand that you're the one writing the comments. Now, the privacy concerns with ECIS on the forefront do seem like an issue because you do log in with your UT ID. However, unless somebody was going to hack into the UT system and trace it back to your UT EID, that's not going to happen, and the privacy concerns are less so because since the comments are typed, it's protected student information under the Open Records Act and TORA for about, I think, one other one mentioned on here. So the privacy concerns are actually much less so with ECIS.
In a lot of respects, it's less a privacy concern as it is an identity concern. It's about the professor recognizing who you are. You're going to have to interact with that professor in the future. Issues like that. Whether you have a paper survey or an electronic survey, if somebody wants to track that information to you, chances are they're going to be able to do it no matter how it's going to be.
Can I just clarify kind of Kramer's intent here is, it's like I'm very much on board with the mandating a shift to electronic surveys for the privacy and the cost and just simplification purposes, but I'm a lot more skeptical of the mandatory taking the survey part. Was this legislation like in the spirit of both of those heads, like both beasts, or was it more about the shift and then kind of the making students take it came out of that?
My feeling is it's more about the shift to electronic course instructor surveys. The problem is if you don't incentivize students to take it in some way, it's not going to be representative, and I think that's a bigger problem policy-wise than just having paper media. It's important that it's representative.
Sorry, Josh, to interrupt you. To give you a few numbers, the response rates currently for electronic course instructor surveys is 50%, and it's 80% for the paper. So a lot of the faculty and a lot of the administration is not comfortable moving forward with this unless it would be mandated in some sort of way for students to respond. Yes, Josh.
I didn't highlight it on this a little bit, but what is the follow-up process to this once it passes the Senate? What are you doing to who are you?
The main form would be the Educational Policy Committee or Faculty Council, and any change to your policy would have to be passed by that committee.
Does that include that optimism?
They just formed a subcommittee, and they're actually looking at it a little more seriously than they have in the past. And this has been kind of something that's been working on for about 3 or 4 years, and I've kind of sat on that committee throughout and tracing it. The faculty this year that's on the committee are a lot more receptive than they have been in the past, and the registrar is a lot more comfortable being a little more aggressive about it. So that's kind of what it's looking like. I know they're looking at other CIS issues as well, but...
Excuse me, I need to jump in. Question and time has expired, so we need a motion to extend it if you want.
Is there a motion to extend the question and answer period? Is there a second?
Second.
By how much?
Sorry.
Oh, yes, by how long will we extend the question and answer period? You made the initial motion?
5 minutes.
Okay, is everyone in favor of extending the question and answer period by 5 minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Yes.
One thing I noticed in a lot of my freshman and sophomore classes, like the really big one, is a lot of students just don't go to class ever except on test days. Do you think that those students that didn't go will fill out the survey and skew the results just so they can see their grades?
Well, I think the important thing with that is that it's not just about the instructor, it's about the course design as well. So if there are a lot of students not coming to class, I think we also need to hear from those students, quite honestly. And I think the concern of them filling it out just to get their grades and putting numbers in just because is sort of the same concern as would people be angry by being back to another website. It's something that might happen, but ultimately we don't feel it's a giant concern.
And with the paper surveys right now, the if you are going to skip a class, one of the classes you're probably most likely to come to is the last one when they're doing the review and then doing the first instructor surveys.
Julian, Fine Arts Council. I'm still unclear on what will happen if the deadline for the CIS online lapses and the student still has not filled more and more out. Will their grades still be withheld after they're unable to complete any course instructor surveys?
I think the only time when that would be an issue is when a student is taking a semester off.
Well, what if they just neglect to look at their grades online and get them sent to their home or otherwise and just neglect to check them online?
I think that's certainly a conversation we can have with the registrar about extending the time to fill out your course instructor survey. I can speak with him about that tomorrow, and I'll have an answer to all of you guys during meetings next week.
And like you said too, the point of the legislation is to incentivize students to take the survey, not necessarily that 100% of students take it. So if there are instances when students are just disinterested in seeing what their grades are, then that might be a situation in which their input is just not entered into the system at all. And I think if a student is just that opposed to doing it, there's not a whole lot of interest.
So their grades won't be withheld, right?
They still wouldn't be able to access them online unless after a certain amount of time the survey is going to have to lapse.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a logistical possibility that some people fall for this.
Just looking at line 19, when you say students use this data to select courses to evaluate professors when registering, is your end goal, I guess, with this information collected via online, to make this more readily available to students than it already is now? Is that what the registration that you're working on?
I think that's definitely a policy goal, but I think that's outside of the scope of this particular piece of legislation.
So what are you referring to when you're talking about that we already use this data?
You can go view, of course.
Are you saying like the open records request?
Sorry.
Are you saying like the open records request like this?
Not necessarily. You can go online and see the results to all of these surveys before you register to see if the professor is good. It's an alternative to things like MyEU that's provided by the university. So because students do use that data, you want that data to be representative and not be biased as it might be during a voluntary survey where you have a very strong positive or strong negative. So that's the reason.
Quick question on the wording. On line 74, should it be student opinion regarding voluntary electronic survey? That doesn't, like, on line 74.
But that should be banned.
Yeah.
Change that part.
You mentioned that you had initial discussion with the faculty and also what feedback they had beyond just saying that they're forcing students to do this. They might give negative feedback of what their input on was.
Okay, so why are the faculty opposed to this? I'm sorry. One reason is, of course, the response rates. The second is currently there's a small programming glitch where, for example, if you have a paper course instructor survey, you see the comments when you also see the rankings students give. On the electronic currently, for some reason, it separates them. So a lot of the faculty members are really upset because, for example, sometimes students get confused and they'll put all ones down and then write in comments, best class I ever took. And they're like, wait a second, I don't have all ones then. So that's one reason. They're working on fixing that programming glitch. It's a very small computer programming thing. The third reason the faculty are really opposed to this is because all of these comments would be subject to open records requests. Currently, the handwritten comments are not, but if you were to type this electronically, outside entities like employers, other people could go in, ask for this information, and get it about the instructor. Yes, they are redacted to protect the student's identity and any really inappropriate comments that are written about instructors. But other than that, it's all included, and future employers, the Board of Regents, anyone that wants this information could obtain it. So that's their third concern.
Motion to extend the debate by 3 minutes.
You went for 3 minutes, okay. Is there a second? All those in favor of extending discussion to debate by 3 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, moving on.
Back to that last point just real quick about maybe future employers being hold of that information. While that is definitely a concern from the faculty perspective, a lot of that information is available because there are third-party sources like MyEU, where if the employer really wanted comments, they could probably get best and worst information. So that's one thing.
So one thing y'all were just saying is that you hope that this will kind of lead to the discontinued use of the paper surveys.
Yes. So what we don't want to happen is to transfer to just electronic course instructor surveys that aren't mandatory and then make them mandatory. That's what we want to avoid. So we want to keep the status quo until there's a full shift rather than go halfway.
Can you I know you don't have an exact one, but just like a gauge of a time range and how long that would be?
I think that would be more of a technical consideration.
Like 2 years or 10 years or?
I know a lot of it's dependent on faculty council because faculty council may choose to accept the move to electronic, but not the move to mandatory. So it's highly dependent now on what EPC does with this should it be passed. I'm sorry, that didn't really answer your question. Yes.
How are we so sure that students are going to answer these questions to the best of their ability and the best of their knowledge rather than just, rushing through it to access their grades?
We're not, but
I think now when you have paper surveys in class, especially when they're given on or near the last class day, students are likely to rush through them anyway to get out of class. It's
52 about handwritten comments. The intent with that is that if you're in a small class, like maybe it's a seminar class that's 10, maybe 15 people, you don't want, because of the situation, because of the recommended handwriting, you don't want to compromise your anonymity. And how that differs from pretty close that question.
Yeah, I understand the what you have behind each argument, but I just feel like they're very similar.
Right. Right now, whether there's less than 5 responses, it's not posted at all because there's a concern that if you have that small a sample size, that whatever feedback isn't going to be representative. So if you are taking a very small seminar class, or there's some fine arts classes that are that small, you don't have any information about the professor posted online right now. And so that's just stating the current policy.
I think the inclusion of 52, even though it mentions again the handwritten problem, was that it helps me into the open records request about typed electronic surveys. So that was the reason.
Question and answer time is started again, so if you want to extend. Is there a motion to extend question and answer time? All right, seeing none, take this back to your council and get their feedback. We'll also be discussing it next week during presentation reps and extra meetings and questions. Thank you. We're now going to move on to agency reports. Is there anyone on behalf of Isaac here? Jingjin.
First of all, does anyone actually know what Isaac stands for? I mean, it's always a question that I get asked, and
it's French.
Yes, it's French. What does it stand for, though? In English, or in French. So I don't know how to say anything in French, but what it means in English is an association of business and economic students. But it's kind of been expanded now. We're now the largest. Isaac International is the largest nonprofit student-run organization in the world in terms of the number of chapters and active members that we have. And I've got an official introduction from our executive board. We unite university chapters around the planet into a single worldwide coalition aimed at facilitating professional and cultural exchange for young people. And dedicated members in 111 nations work to raise internship opportunities for foreign students. And our UT chapter is no exception when we work to offer and maintain the steady flow of kind of international exchange opportunities in and out of the Longhorn community. So what this actually means is that Isaac Austin helps UT students get jobs like full-time internships abroad, and they create job opportunities locally, and to get these employers to hire students from our foreign Isaac partner chapters. So that's kind of the service that we provide for UT and our Longhorn community, and thus we're an agency of Senate. And we are excited to continue to serve as a Senate agency, broadening the horizons of students involved in either facilitating or actually going on these exchanges. So we have a lot of leadership opportunities available in that regard. So please join us at our information sessions. It's Tuesday or Thursday at 6:30. The Tuesday one is going to be in Benedict 1.126, and the Thursday one is 1.106. Again, that's 6:30 next Tuesday or Thursday. That information, you can forget, is also available on our website, isaacaustin.org. So furthermore, Isaac is hosting a convergence of all the forces that yield the amazing diversity that's found at UT. And this is kind of our biggest festival in the fall semester, and it's called the Global Village. It's in the middle of November. So we're looking for contributors to sponsor booths and to showcase any ethnic or cultural identity with food, games, music, and any sort of exhibition that can be brought in mind. So we're kind of like one of those. Last semester we had a language fair, right, with all of the liberal arts and language departments. So this fall we're doing one where all of the ethnic and cultural organizations will come together and showcase our diversity to the entire UT community. So Dylan would be your man for that event, and his information is on the agenda. So the email is there if you know anybody that you can recommend to us. So thank you very much. And do we have any questions about Isaac or about Global Village, about how to get involved? Yes, November 15th. And this is Ann, and she also helps us out with a lot of the Isaac coordination at Sept.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Jing-Sheng. On behalf of Bobby Jenkins, Jeff's going to give an announcement from URJ.
Hey y'all, to the assembly and guests who I haven't met, my name is Jeff Stevens. I'm the executive director for Sept this year. I wanted to make an announcement on behalf of the Undergraduate Research Journal. This is an organization that takes student-run research projects and puts it in a journal and publishes it for the greater UT community. URJ was recently accepted at a lot of our peer institutions to be held in their libraries, so this is an organization with prowess, I guess you would say. They are now accepting applications for their assistant editor positions. If you're interested in this, they're specifically contacting freshmen and sophomores to get involved and be college representatives to collect research reports from specific colleges. So if you're a business student, maybe you want to look into student research in the Combs. If you're engineering, student research in the Cockrell School, what have you. So please contact Bobby Jenkins at the email there. We'll be forwarding this application widely in the next few days, so keep your eyes open and apply if you're interested. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. We're now going to move on to the council spotlight. Is Kimberly Lewis here from Association of Nurses and Graduate Students? Here she is. So Kimberly's going to give a brief 2 to 3 minute presentation about things that are going on in the graduate nursing school. So Kimberly Lewis.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. I'm with the Association of Nurses in Graduate School, and Connie Land is here joining me. She's a member of our executive committee. So the Association of Nurses in Graduate School is made up of graduate students in the nursing school. They're automatically members as soon as they are admitted to the university, and we have a really diverse group of students. We have several different programs like nurse practitioners, administrators, nurse educators, and doctoral students, just to name a few. And so because of that diverse population, we have a few different goals this year. One of the things is to build community among all of those different groups and kind of bring everybody together. Another thing we want to do is increase the visibility of AIMS among the students and faculty in the nursing school. And finally, we want, since we're on the edge of campus and we're kind of separated from the rest of the community, we just wanted to make everybody aware of the resources that are available at the university as a whole.
And just a few examples of some of the initiatives that we're going to start to this year to meet some of those goals is, number one, we're trying to renovate the graduate student lounge and kitchen. Since we do kind of live in the building, it's essential that we have the amenities that we need to live there. We're also going to start a monthly newsletter. And also we are going to start a social events calendar among the students and also among professionals in the field. Also, we'd like to partner with other graduate student organizations to also build some more community there and extend our resources. And lastly, to reconnect with our alumni. Any questions?
Now, from Undergraduate Business Council, Michael Daney will also give the council spotlight.
Michael Daney, and I have the best job on campus, working with 100 awesome Macomb students to represent 4,400 Macomb students. So any of those 100 in the room, will you stand up, please, UBC members? So thanks for coming out. We wanted to give everyone a taste of Senate, so thank you all for coming out tonight. Like I said, we have a really awesome group of passionate Macomb students who are working really hard to make McCombs better, but also to make our university a better place. And that's kind of our focus this year, is to keep putting on events and programs and representing McCombs students. So we're really adding value within the B school, but also to make sure we don't live inside our own bubble all the time. So hopefully you will see that frequently this year in Senate and through our events, that we're really trying to partner with all of you, because frankly you do lots of awesome things that make this place better, and we want to learn from you. So an example of that, this coming Tuesday, we have our VIP speaker series, and we'll be bringing in the president of the United Way. So Cody and Social Work Council have been working with us to kind of make sure that we get the word out in social work, because it really is going to be a great event for them as well as for our business students. So it's open to all students. Please come out, invite your council members. It's Tuesday at 5:30 in the Union Theater. So please come out, like I said, completely open. And then let me brag really quickly, we've had some awesome events this year. Our McCombs kickoff, we had over 300 freshmen come out for a day at Zilker Park and a boat party and all that good stuff, and really got them welcomed, and we're able to explain to them what Business Council does, what Senate does. So Cameron, who's here, played a big part in putting that on. And then the other one, we had the president of ESPN come in last week, and we had 1,100 students come out to hear him. So very proud of the work we're doing. Like I said, I have the best job. I get out of the way and let the other 100 do their thing. So please reach out to me. I'll definitely be harassing you to work with you. So thank you so much.
Other council announcements from Natural Sciences Council, who is going to give a brief announcement about their 2 upcoming events.
All right, how's it going, everyone? First off, just want to put in a real quick plug for our own Career Expo that we have this coming Monday. It will be from 1 to 6 p.m. at the Frank Irwin Center. It is open to all students across the university, not just Natural Sciences. All you need is your student ID, and the dress code is business casual. There will be a lot of businesses there, so if you're interested, bring your resume. Maybe something awesome can happen from it. The other thing that we have going on is that at the end of September, the week of the 26th, we have, once again, Natural Sciences Week. Every college has one of these at some point in time throughout the year, and basically the main purpose of these different weeks is to draw all the students together in their colleges and really showcase a lot of what their colleges have to offer. So I have some mini flyers I'm going to be passing around. We encourage you guys to come out if you're interested. There will be a lot of free food, free shirts, and a lot of fun and great information. So check it out.
Yes. So Star Party is one of my favorite events at the university, so you should all definitely go. It's really cool. Roof of RLM, and you can really kind of look at the stars. Maybe it's romantic if you bring a date. Maybe it's not if you're like really nerdy and you nerd out over like different astrological formations. I don't know, but either way, it's a really cool event, so you should go. Moving on to Robert, I was going to give a brief, 2 brief announcements from Engineering Council.
I'm Roberto. I'm the president of the Student Engineering Council.
Sorry, I don't put my name there, but I'm just keeping it real. Okay, so today, so I have an announcement for you guys regarding the Technology Entrepreneurs Society, which is an organization in engineering. And we have an evening with Dr. Frank Moss, who was the previous director of the MIT Media Lab, and he's going to be giving a talk, or we're going to be having a talk with them at the SAC 1.402 on September 22nd at 7 p.m. So if you guys are interested, please come in, just, I guess, see him and learn more about the MIT Media Lab or whatever he's done. He's been CEO of a company which merged with IBM, and he's done a lot of other stuff, so it's a really cool opportunity to meet such a, I guess, famous person, and just, I guess, meet other students who are interested as well.
And I also want to make another announcement that's not on the agenda. Engineering is also having a Career Expo next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. Everyone's invited. You just need to dress business casual like I am right now, and at UTIP. We have over 300 companies this year, everything from ExxonMobil to Facebook to Google. So definitely come out Tuesday and Wednesday. That's all. Thank you.
councils, upcoming events, past events? Yes.
I'd like to invite all of you again to Clash of the Councils. It is the 24th, and it's from 11 to 3. It's going to be a really epic time. Send me an email if you're coming, please. Thank you.
I'm going to make this brief for now, and then there'll be more discussion over the listserv. But if you look at the very end of the agenda, there's a draft of a strategic response to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board core curriculum recommendations. This is the faculty's response. So basically, tonight I wanted to gauge from all of you guys kind of what y'all's feelings are on this response for two reasons. One, Senate is represented in this particular letter, and I sit on a committee that looks at this, so I want to make sure that the Assembly approves this moving forward, doesn't have any concerns or thoughts to include in the final draft will be sent to the system. And then the second reason is, as we're writing our own student response, I want to see kind of, based on the faculty and how close we are, because I do want to kind of coordinate with the faculty response as much as I can, just so that moving forward, yes, we do have a student perspective on it, but we have a united voice coming from UT Austin. There are a few things I wanted to point out. Under 4.28 Section 3, Learning Objectives and Component Categories, they talk a little bit here in this section about requiring these core objectives that are listed in that PowerPoint that we had before, kind of whether this should be achieved through degree plans versus the core curriculum. Currently, UT Austin is through degree plans through the flag system. So you'll have a writing credit or a communications credit, but it's through earning that flag, which can be applied to an upper division course in degree plans. This particular response specifically says it should be in degree plans, not the core curriculum. So that's kind of the first, more contentious thing. The second is if you look down, and this is all different fonts for some reason, where it says spreading the core objectives widely, assigning as many as 5 to 6 objectives to one course will dilute the effect of each on the students. So this is basically saying that it will dilute the core. I know we discussed this a little bit. Moving on to the next, both faculty and student committees here have been concerned about the cost of administering the new rules. They kind of bring up the point that we're worried that it's going to cost a lot, especially to implement writing courses in a lot of different core classes. If you have that objective, it's expensive to assess writing, it's expensive to make it actually work for students versus not. The next section is 2, which is on the next page. This kind of goes over all of those main changes. This is something that, my personal opinion is that this isn't as big of a deal for us to address in our letter. It's kind of semantical. It's kind of faculty-esque to kind of complain about what certain words mean. I don't know if y'all have thoughts on that, but we can definitely discuss it. That whole section goes over that. The next thing that's more contentious is section 4. This particular sentence is according to the urge that this item be postponed pending further discussion. This is specifically referring to the fact that it would move from institutional option, which would allow you to take the UGS course, to this component area thing where you'd have to pick from the areas already listed, which would make the UGS courses at UT worthless as part of the core. So what they're really advocating for here is that it's discussed later. In the timeline of how this was done, it's really bureaucratic. It went through one approval process and it wasn't in the initial recommendations. So they kind of slipped it into the second, and the faculty are really upset by it because they want it to be discussed in a whole other discussion. They do mention they would like to see it be able to be used for interdisciplinary purposes, and this is something they're collaborating with other institutions on, because I know A&M's core, one of their institutional options is through this interdisciplinary class, just like our UGS classes. So that is something that they're collaborating on. And then number 5, which is on the very last page, the back of your agenda, this is talking about how in the core objectives, they list all of these things. Communications would be written, oral, and visual, and they want it to be changed to or. So those are kind of the highlights of this, some of the more contentious things. I wanted to just gauge y'all's thoughts. I know this isn't a piece of legislation, but I do want to kind of discuss and debate it in this room if y'all have thoughts on this particular response. 1, how we should adjust the student response, and 2, what your thoughts are on this so I can bring it back to the committee and let them know. So any thoughts on this? I know it's kind of expansive, but anything at all? Is everyone kind of cool with this moving forward as being UT's response? Any objections that you have as a student that you think it's different than the faculty perspective? I'm going to go ahead and send this out over the listserv. Excuse me. As as well as Senate's response. I'm cheering up till I'm talking, I'm just kidding. As well as the student response, so that you can kind of gauge that, look at it, change some of the nitpicky word things if you want, or any additional thoughts. So expect this over the listserv very, very soon, because it must be approved before next Thursday to be sent to SISTA. So any last minute questions on that particular issue? I know Michael Daney wants to discuss my EDU, but we may postpone that to later on, unless he has any very strong thoughts about it right now that he wishes to share.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to discuss that more at President's meeting, and we will discuss that under executive updates. This is a general conversation, but not a piece of legislation next GA. I kind of wanted to also gauge y'all's feedback on that. One way we want to use General Assembly in the upcoming year is to not only discuss legislative initiatives, but just general issues. So are y'all kind of okay with us using the executive update part of the agenda in that manner? I don't want it to be like a huge waste of y'all's time. So we'll discuss that more in President's meetings. Other than that, there is a brief announcement from Bargov about appropriations.
Hey y'all, so we had our first round of appropriations close this last Friday at 5 p.m. We had about 40 organizations from across the 40 acres apply, so one for every acre. It was awesome. And then I kind of sent out an email to the financial directors and told them that they'll be doing appropriations this upcoming Thursday. I wanted to remind you all that it's, first of all, the timing is 6 to 9:30, so they'll be here from 5:45 to 9:45. That's dedication on a Thursday night. If they can't show up, that's dedication from their president if they really do want to show up. So I wanted to remind you all that if your financial director can't make it for any reason, the president is free to sit in on appropriations meetings, and this is for any part of the time. So if your FD can make it 5:45 to 7, and not after that, you can switch in and out, play some tag team appropriations, and we'll get our stuff done. I also wanted to remind you that the Friday after this upcoming Thursday, meaning in 8 days from now, the second round of appropriations is due at 5 p.m. Organizations that applied for the first round are also eligible to apply for the second round, the only restriction being that they can't be appropriated more than $500 in any semester. So if they receive $200 for an event that's coming up soon, but they want to apply for $300 for an event that's coming up in November or December, they're totally open to do that. So does anyone have any questions about appropriations? Great, thanks guys.
Sorry, backtracking to the
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't give y'all enough time to review that.
No, I just forgot to ask the question. Who you probably said it, but who authored the recommendation?
The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board makes the initial recommendations, and then they're after. So it's kind of complicated. It was sent back to the coordinating board with UT's response, and then it was sent back to the university to comment again from the coordinating board, and now it's being sent to the system. So the initial recommendations are from the coordinating board, but it will be sent to UT system from this point forward.
Okay, sorry.
Kind of. I know it's complicated.
I meant the student response.
Oh, who will be coordinating that, or?
Who authored what we had about?
This is the faculty response. This was authored by a committee of people from UGSAC, which is Undergraduate Studies Advisory Committee, which is a group of different deans and faculty members on campus, Educational Policy Committee, which is a specific committee of faculty council that has administrators on campus. Dr. Ritter, that was speaking earlier, will be orchestrating kind of a cover letter, and then also has been compiling a lot of this, as well as there's a representative from the chair of faculty council, and then I sit on that committee as well as the student representative. So. Any other questions about that before we move on to committee reports? All right, we're going to move on to committee reports. Our first will be from Hannah Tucker and Bala about Fix Day.
I'm just going to stand right here and speak loudly, hope y'all can hear me. Just want to put a quick event on your radar. On November 16th, Students of Talk Texas is hosting Thanks Day. We had that last year. It's basically a huge event to thank all the donors, alumni, and really anyone who's given anything to Texas ever. Write the cards, y'all get t-shirts. I think we're getting like free bands this year or something. And then another thing I just want to talk to you all about, if y'all have any questions about alumni, getting your alumni involved, figuring out like a system to do that, please come talk to Bala and I. And that's something we've been researching a lot and working a lot on this year. So any help that y'all need, please come to us. Our emails are quickly, Senate has been working on a huge fundraising effort for the victims of the Bastrop wildfire. Hopefully you've seen 2 shirts around campus, either the I Heart Bastrop or I'm a BFD supporter. They're both $10 and 100% of the proceeds go to the American Red Cross. If you haven't got one yet, please go do so ASAP. We're going to be tabling for the last day tomorrow, and then they'll be sold in the co-op after that. So make sure you get one.
Can you tell us how much money we've made already, Hannah?
Yes. We're really excited about this. We've already sold, this is through yesterday's numbers, we've sold 450 shirts, and then have made over $1,700 in just pure monetary donations. So that's about $6,000 in all.
Toiletries, not gently used toiletries, but your toiletries or school supplies and things, we are collecting those as well. There's a lot of residence halls definitely in St. Jack and in Jester right now, and we're going to check with the residence hall. And also we are collecting them in the co-op. We have a huge plot out back that they were able to donate to us as well. So drop them off in the co-op and we'll put it out back and encourage anyone else you know as well. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
One more quick thing, if Christine and Mark can kind of explain the Longhorn school bus stuff, I know there's been a lot of confusion about that among councils.
We're actually going to come up to make a brief announcement, just to make it Okay, so I'm Christine Thorne-Thompson.
And I'm Mark Jones.
Okay, so one of our events is ready to go, but we're here to talk about Longhorn School Bus. And so it happens twice each semester. So the ones this semester are September 30th and October 28th. September 30th, we already have Global Arts Council, UBC, and Education signed up. And then the October 28th, we have LBJ School of Public Affairs. We still have 2 spots open, so start competing for those 2 spots. And then next semester, we'll have 2 more, so we're going to be looking for 6 more councils next semester. We're really excited. We have 90 5th and 6th graders coming. So each council will have 30 kids for 3 hours from 10 to 1. Are there any questions about, I'll send an email with all this logistics out too, but we're hoping to get councils that have done it in the past to come back and do it again. Also, I know LBJ School of Public Affairs has never done it before, so we're really excited to work with them and anyone else that, I know there's some councils that haven't, so we're looking to get everyone involved this year.
Does anybody want one of those? Oh, yes.
Do you have the dates for this spring?
We haven't determined them yet. We're planning on getting in contact again with the teacher, like especially when we have a first event to finalize it. It's like tentative because it has to be the elementary school, it's all elementary school, and they publish their field trip days and all of their testing days later. And so it's a very big, we have to wait for them to get their schedules so that we can plan when they can come. But it'll be soon.
Does any council want one of those the 2 spots? One of those 2 spots. Natural science and comm. Okay, there you go.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank y'all. We're going to get into ad hoc updates. You have one from Allie and Josh.
So I actually called Josh up here on the spot to help explain the legislation they presented last year in a second, because I know we have some new members and some people that are new to Senate that were in our assembly last year. But first, I just want to say that we have set a time and day for our ad hoc, so we're going to meet for the first time this Sunday at 2 p.m. in our Senate office in the conference room. And so what we're hoping to accomplish is, Josh will explain in a second, but we hope to pass the program first through the intellectual entrepreneurship. But the problem came up with that, so we're trying to restructure it to do it in UGS, so maybe as part of the BDP program. So we're hoping to draft kind of a proposal against Dr. Woodruff and Dr. Abram so maybe it can be taken up by the school. So I'm actually going to have Josh explain the resolution that he wrote last year and the proposed.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of what this program is. The idea with this is that it's a short interdisciplinary program that prepares students for grad school. And how it does that is there's a series of 4 classes, 3 of them that build students' knowledge base on a research topic, and a 4th which they write a short thesis that would probably be between 20 and 30 pages, not the time commitment that would go into a departmental thesis program, but something that they can use as a writing sample on their grad school applications that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do through an academic program. And then the program concludes with a case competition in which students present their thesis and how their solution that they've drafted in their thesis solves a problem that faces society in general. And so they'll be judged by people who are experts in that area as to how well they have proposed solutions to that problem. So that's kind of the general idea.
Yeah, so make sure if you guys are interested, we encourage all council and internal Senate members to please come and give your feedback and help us draft this program. Thank you.
Thanks.
Very briefly, I'm going to speak on university-wide appointments about Educational Policy Committee. I know we've talked about that acronym a lot at EPC tonight. It has 3 main things that's working on this year. One is Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, which y'all are all very familiar with by now. The second is the course instructor surveys. They're looking at 2 things. One, electronic course instructor surveys. The second thing they're looking at is rewriting the actual wording of the course instructor surveys themselves. So Senate will likely conduct some kind of focus group or get some kind of feedback on how y'all feel about how they're worded currently and if it's good for students. The third is kind of odd. Writing flags currently have a peer review component where you have to review each other's papers, or they actually show an example of the student's paper. A lot of faculty are really adamantly opposed to it. So I'll eventually most likely be passing some legislation through here or presenting it and see how y'all feel about that peer review component, whether it should be in a writing flag or not. I think that's all we have for university-wide appointments. And are there any open mic announcements? Yes,
Hey guys, 2 quick open mic announcements. One, really good job on the debate on course instructor surveys today. I did want to urge you guys when you take this back to your councils, this is just my personal opinion, to talk a little bit more about the philosophy of whether course instructor surveys should be incentivized in the transition from paper to online rather than the implementation of it. The registrar has obviously been implementing surveys for a long time now. They have a lot of technology and infrastructure and manpower to think about the actual registration problems of when deadlines will close, how to access grades, things like that. So those are really good questions, but understand that the scope of the legislation usually is about the philosophy of the issue. So I would urge you all to discuss that. Second announcement is if you're not going to after-meeting eating, at Tejas tonight at 9 p.m., there will be a member of the Board of Regents, Regent Cranberg, coming to talk to students about a lot of relevant issues. So I would urge you all to come out if you're interested.
That is a really interesting day also. Definitely be prepared with some questions if you have them. Just don't say anything offensive, which I know y'all won't. So any other open mic announcements? Yeah.
So sorry guys, this is just, I kind of mentioned this in rep meetings, it's been requested that for the new legislation on CIS that was just presented, I'm actually going to send to representatives kind of a presentation of helpful points and things taken through the legislation. If you feel like anything needs to be added, please feel free to edit and send it back to me. I'll get it done this weekend because I know some of you need it on Monday, so I'll get it done. And maybe it would help other people, your comments that you think need to be presented. So expect that really soon, sometime this weekend.
All right, any last minute open mic announcements? All right, after meeting will be at Threadhill. It's the one on South Congress. So please join us there. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. We have adjourned. Thank y'all all so much, and thanks you